This song may sound dissonant and unprofessional, but the children are very sincere. They're singing the Turkish national anthem, being far away from the country. They live in the northern part of Cyprus, which has been under Turkish occupation since 1974, and Turkey remains the only country to recognize this breakaway territory. The tension in Cyprus followed the island's independence from the UK in 1960. The Turkish Cypriots, who formed the minority of the island's population, claimed that their rights had been constantly violated by the Greek Cypriot authorities. During the 1960s, paramilitary forces from both sides exchanged fire regularly. Radicals from the Greek Cypriot side called on the island to integrate with Greece. On the other hand, Turkish Cypriot fanatics wanted Cyprus to become a part of Turkey. Ethnic partition of the island has become the result of the bloody conflict in 1974. The Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus was proclaimed. Now it's just a museum of spoils of war, but in 1974 the Turkish army landed in this very place to start what they call a peace operation. The occupation of vast territory of Cyprus was the result. Despite peaceful statements are made by both sides, people still remember the war, and the Turkish side uses every chance to emphasize its military presence in Cyprus. The Greek Cypriot government of the Republic of Cyprus is recognized by the international community as the only legal power on the island. A resort of European importance, Cyprus attracts millions of tourists each year. Andreas Saris is a typical Cyprus resident. He enjoys life on the Mediterranean island, running 2 restaurants in the town of Larnaca. Every afternoon he leaves work for a couple of hours to see his family and have lunch at home. His wife Maya is Bulgarian, but she feels comfortable here as she's been living in Cyprus since 1999. 30 years ago, this remote part of the town was uninhabited. Then the Greek Cypriot authorities built this district, and those families which didn't own a house moved here, as did the Saris family. Andreas emphasizes the fact that he's not a local resident, but a refugee. His life changed forever in 1974, as it did for thousands of his compatriots. Andreas was 6 years old when his family was forced to leave their native village outside Famagusta. Andreas has several tapes with footage from the 1970s. He watches them several times a year in an attempt to understand why the Cyprus conflict began.
I remember they come aeroplane, Turkish. I remember bomb, and we must to run away from our village, from our land.
The Greek Cypriots left their properties. Shortly after the end of the war, new settlers took over the town. Turkey moved around 150,000 of its residents to North Cyprus to change the demographic structure of the island. Hello,
Yes.
Mr. President, once again.
How are you?
Not bad. Mehmet Ali Talat is the second leader of North Cypriot community. He took office in 2005. 3 years later, direct negotiations between North Cyprus and the Republic of Cyprus began. Mr. Talat says he supports the island's reunification.
Finding a solution to the Cyprus problem would mean we are going to form a new state, a new federal state. And forming a new federal state would, of course, necessitate a new government elected by Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots simultaneously.
Since the Republic of Cyprus joined the European Union, the reunification process has entered a new phase. Did the EU accession of the Republic of Cyprus make those negotiations easier or maybe more difficult? Did it change actually anything?
Accession of the Greek Cypriots on behalf of the whole of the island to the European Union actually caused Greek Cypriots to lose their incentive for a solution.
However, Cyprus's accession to the EU brought about some developments in the peace process. In 2004, the border crossing checkpoint between the Republic of Cyprus and North Cyprus was opened. Since then, all Cypriots have been able to travel to the opposite side of the island. This provided most of them with an opportunity to visit their hometowns. This district of the town of Limassol was once home to a large Turkish Cypriot community. Özel Aygin was born here. Now he lives 100 kilometers away in North Cyprus. He came here to remember his friends who died in the Cyprus conflict in the middle of the 20th century. Özel recalls the story of Munur Shago clearly.
When he understood that the Greek arms ready to occupy his place, his point, he used his own hand grenades and explode, and he died with his own bomb.
Despite Özel not taking part in the combat, his family suffered a lot.
We stayed about 24 hours here after the war when the Turkish troop came to north. The fight started here as well in Limassol, and late afternoon the Turkish part occupied by the Greek. I moved to look to find my families, and when I came here, I came and I found my families also here.
Özel claims the Turkish Cypriots who gathered at this place thought the opponents would kill him, but they were released shortly after. Despite Limassol wasn't damaged much by the war, it was a scene of regular street fights. Many Turkish Cypriots lost their friends and relatives there. Most of them preferred to leave their homeland and move to the north, as they considered the Greek Cypriot-controlled part of the island dangerous. Some families stayed, and every time Özel Aygin visits his hometown, he meets more of his compatriots. But for Özel, it will always be a painful place to visit. His brother was injured here in 1974. He was paralyzed.
The Greek trench, about 200 meters from here. My brother were living about 100 meters from this direction. He was at home. Suddenly, from this trench, a bomb came.
In 2008, there was a footballing bomb in Cyprus. Anorthosis became the first ever Cypriot club to make it through to the Champions League group stage. It came 34 years after the club had to leave its native town of Famagusta, fleeing from the Turkish troops.
Few people knew about the Cyprus problem before, as Anorthosis was promoted to the Champions League group stage. People watched our matches against European top clubs, and they've become interested in our club and the problems in Cyprus.
Anorthosis fans describe the football club as the refugee team.
Famagusta, I think, is a different people. They want to help the team to take the freedom of the town, to return back in Famagusta town.
Now Anorthosis has become the most popular side in Cyprus. Andreas Anastasio is an ardent Anorthosis fan. The banner Save Famagusta, Freedom for Cyprus was made by him in 1995, ahead of an away game in Spain. The club's vice president, Evgenis Hamboulas, is his friend. He often comes here for a cup of coffee. Mr. Hamboulas is also a refugee. Every time the two men meet, they recall life in Famagusta, which is now a part of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, and both dream of returning to their homeland.
I hope soon we have the solution. It's the time now. I think it's the time now to have the solution and to return to our town.
This is the Green Line, the border between the Republic of Cyprus and North Cyprus. It divides the village of Dyrene into two parts and separates former neighbors, the Greek Cypriots and the Turkish Cypriots. One of the most beautiful towns on the island, Famagusta was almost ruined during the Turkish invasion. And one of its richest districts, Varosha, was closed by the Turkish army in 1974. Since then, no one except Turkish and UN troops have entered this mysterious district. Here in the southern part of the island, it's the nearest point where one can see a panoramic view of Famagusta, which the Greek Cypriots continue to call the Ghost City. A lack of international recognition doesn't stop people going into business in North Cyprus. Dr. Gunay Turkes is one of the most successful businessmen in the Republic. He is the chairman of both a construction company and the local telecom giant Turkcell. Golf is his favorite pastime. He established this golf course outside Dyrene in 2004.
Hello, welcome, how are you?
Now it's one of the best facilities of its kind in the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus.
We do have difficulties not being recognized. We cannot reach the financial markets. We cannot borrow money for projects in international money markets. We cannot get credits.
Many businesses are in the real estate sector. Dr. Gunay believes the construction boom will develop the Republic's economy dramatically.
Our economy is very small, so a small injection, of course, will make a big difference, unlike some of the huge industrial countries in the West.
So being unrecognized doesn't mean being poor. Andres Saris doesn't care much for money. After he escaped the Turkish occupation, he opened 2 restaurants in the southern part of Cyprus. But the sad memories still remain to this day. Sometimes he returns to the place where he once lived for many years. His family had nothing in the area they were forced to move to.
This house they built in 1976 when we come refugees for a few years. This house, it was temporary to live people in this house, and we lived over 20 years in this house.
A picture like this was quite typical in Cyprus in the 1970s. Several years of intercommunal violence and the invasion of the Turkish army almost ruined this Mediterranean heaven. 30 years on, some villages in North Cyprus still keep the traces of war. Most residents of the village of Murataga were killed in the 1970s. Others left, so many houses still remain empty here. Despite the time goes by, the sediments of the past are still fresh in the Cypriots' memories. This solemn memorial is located far away from main roads and big towns. For Sevinç Güler and Zekai Arash, it's a sacred place. It commemorates one of the most tragic events of the Cyprus conflict in the middle of the 20th century. The residents of 3 Turkish Cypriot villages, which are close by, were reportedly massacred at this location 20 kilometers away from Famagusta. Sevinç was 14 at that time, while her brother Zekai was just 9 years old. Their family was the only one to survive the tragedy.
I can still remember the events of the 1970s, when armed Greek Cypriots used to beat the Turkish Cypriots up and threaten us. They wanted to push all the Turkish Cypriots off the island. They used to hunt us down like rabbits at that time.
Starting from July the 20th, 1974, when the Turkish intervention started, the Greek Cypriots tried to seek their revenge, killing civilians in Turkish Cypriot villages.
It reportedly lasted until August the 15th, 1974, when the Turkish army took over this area. The earlier armed Greek Cypriots allegedly rounded up about 80 Turkish Cypriots in this pit. Sevinci and Zakai claimed that those who tried to resist were shot dead. Others were burnt alive. Almost the entire population of the three villages was said to have been annihilated. The brother and sister discovered a cave not far from their school. They say they will remember the way to the shelter until the day they die. A cave saved the lives of Sevinci, Zakai, and their parents.
The entrance to the cave was located exactly here under the tree.
Our family was hiding in here. Suddenly we heard people approaching the cave. They called us in Greek, brothers, brothers.
Brothers, brothers. But we stayed silent. Then they started to shoot inside the cave, thinking that maybe we should start shouting.
But we didn't make any noise.
So they decided that we had been killed. But we survived. At the time we understood that we can't live side by side with these people anymore. We still don't trust the Greek Cypriots.
Over 80% of the property in the northern part of the island belonged to the Greek Cypriots. Since 1974, their land has been exploited by the Turks and Turkish Cypriots. On the other hand, a lot of Turkish Cypriot property is occupied by the Greek Cypriots in the south. This makes the issue of property a stumbling block for settlement of the Cyprus conflict. However, in some places, the two branches of the Cypriot nation live side by side. The village of Deep Karpas is a mixed community where both the Turkish Cypriots and the Greek Cypriots live. On the surface, it may look as a symbol of peaceful coexistence of the two ethnic communities. The Turkish Cypriots claim that it is a peaceful place, but some Greek Cypriots disagree. Zacharias Ktori is one of around 300 Greek Cypriots living in Deep Karpas. He runs a small household on the outskirts of the village. Mr. Ktori remembers a time when there were no Turkish Cypriots in this area. After 1974, the demographic structure of the village changed drastically. He rarely goes outside his farm and doesn't communicate much with his Turkish Cypriot neighbors. He believes the occupation forces have deprived him of his family's property.
I've got this house only. I have another house here. My wife's house was here. Yeah, I've got a house there. I have 2 rooms, 2 big rooms here. It's in my house, but the Turks take it. The Turks took it as well, in my own land. We have no human rights here, no human rights at all. We only pay taxes and only taxes. We cannot vote, so we can't do anything.
The bells have been removed from a local Orthodox church. A mosque 50 meters away, on the other hand, is full almost every day, while the church remains locked. An attendant checks the church 3 times a week. He says he's too young to remember the church being full of people, something his parents used to tell him about. Most residents, especially older people, claim that they hadn't experienced any intercommunal hatred before walking into Cyprus. Now the so-called green line divides Cyprus on the map, while religious differences divide the minds of the Cypriot people.
Some people come to the church during the Christmas holidays, but not too many of them. Shortly after the war, people were afraid of visiting the church because of problems with the local Muslim population.
Now Turkish national symbols can be seen everywhere in North Cyprus. The unrecognized Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus flag stands side by side with the Turkish flag. After being occupied for more than 30 years, North Cyprus looks like the Turkish mainland. 60-year-old Osipov spent the latter half of his life in Kyrenia in North Cyprus. His brother owns a cafe here.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, brother, I'm fine.
Saim has been paralyzed for more than 30 years. He was injured by a bomb from the Greek Cypriot side in his hometown of Limassol. He used to work as a doctor there. It took around 5 years to recover from his injuries. He had to quit his job and leave his hometown. Saim settled in North Cyprus, starting a small business in Kyrenia. The two brothers often talk about the Cyprus conflict and devastation that it brought to the country.
I don't need revenge. I don't hate those people. I don't want my children or grandchildren to experience what we went through. What I want is to find a solution. I want to be a resident of a united Cyprus.
We lost at least 50 years for nothing. The fanatics couldn't reach their aim, both sides, and we lost a lot of people. We lost our places, houses, lands, everything.
The position of a key junction in the Mediterranean Sea is among the major things Cyprus has lost. The port of Famagusta was one of the largest on the island before the war. Since the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus was proclaimed, all communication and trade with the unrecognized territory has been terminated. Despite the international embargo, some countries like Georgia send its ships to the closed port. Those who saw Famagusta before 1974 can't believe they're in the same town. Kilometers of perfect sandy beaches, luxury hotels and magnificent architecture attracted tourists from across the continent to the town before the war. Famagusta was damaged by the conflict more than other towns in Cyprus. Now the Greek Cypriots call it the Ghost City. The town of Famagusta used to be one of the most popular summer resorts in Cyprus. Now there are almost no Greek Cypriots left in this formerly Greek-dominated area. Former residents fled the town, so now Famagusta remains a symbol of the yet unresolved conflict. There is one district which still divides the Greek Cypriots and the Turkish Cypriots. Varosha, once a tourist area of Famagusta, has been closed by the Turkish army since 1974. For Andreas Anastasiou, Varosha is not only a legendary place, it's his home. Now a Turkish Cypriot family occupies it.
Hello.
Hello.
May I enter the house? It's been a long time since I've been here. A very long time.
You want to see my room? Huh? Yeah, this is, they changed now the house. Here it was the hall, and my room is this, but they broke and they make one whole room.
Andreas returned here with his family in 2004 for the first time in 30 years. He recalls the trip as his most painful experience ever, as being even more emotional than fleeing from his home in 1974. Andreas remembers every detail of the house.
Here is my neighbor, they live in London. My neighbors live in London now. And behind is a school. Behind of this building is my school. Okay, here we write our name when we was young. Here is my name, my friend name. Now one is in Darnaga, one is in Bafos. Panikos and photos. Here is the date, 20 January 71. Also we write here other names. The same, here is here, for friends. Everybody is on life, my good friend, my best friend. Yes.
The school Andreas used to go to is opposite the fenced district of Famagusta. Once it was the town's most developed area. Now it's desolate.
I was here 6 years. Now it's closed. Nobody inside. I remember memories, my friends, my teacher. Here it was when I was young, 12 years. 6 in this gymnasium and the 6 for the other school. It's 2 schools here, you know. Our feelings is not good, but we hope soon change. I don't know. It's difficult. I was 18, now I am 54. Okay. Yeah. This is the story of Famagusta. I show you an orthosis Famagusta. We return soon, I think. Yes, and we play football. Next Champions League we play in Famagusta.